The wind outside howled like a tormented spirit, rattling the old windows of our family cabin. I glanced at the clock on the wall, its hands creeping closer to midnight. Thanksgiving Day had taken a dark turn, one that would haunt me for the rest of my days. It all began with the invitation from my estranged uncle, Gabriel. He lived in a secluded cabin deep within the woods, far from the nearest town. My family hadn't seen him in years, and his sudden request for us to join him for Thanksgiving was strange, to say the least. But a sense of duty compelled us to accept. As we approached the cabin, the forest seemed to close in around us, the towering trees casting eerie shadows. Gabriel greeted us with a forced smile, his eyes holding a flicker of something sinister. His wife, Helen, remained hidden in the shadows, her presence unsettling. The evening began with an uncomfortable silence, broken only by the occasional clinking of cutlery against plates. The food was exquisite, but there was something off about it, a taste that was impossible to place. I tried to ignore the nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach as I watched my family devour the meal. As the night deepened, Gabriel insisted we partake in a peculiar tradition. He produced a weathered book, bound in human skin, and began to chant in a language I couldn't comprehend. The candles in the room flickered, and a bone-chilling cold filled the air. Panic clawed at my chest, but I was paralyzed, unable to move or speak. Suddenly, the cabin was filled with ghostly apparitions, figures twisted and contorted in agony. They moaned and wailed, their eyes hollow voids of despair. My family members were no longer themselves, their eyes glowed with an otherworldly malevolence. Helen stepped forward, her voice dripping with malice as she recited an incantation that sent shivers down my spine. "Tonight, we offer our thanks to the ancient spirits," she hissed. "In return, they shall grant us power beyond your feeble human understanding." I watched in horror as my family members began to transform. Their bodies twisted and stretched, their bones snapping like dry twigs. Fur sprouted from their skin, and claws extended from their fingertips. They had become grotesque, nightmarish creatures, no longer recognizable as human. The creatures turned their attention to me, their eyes burning with hunger. Gabriel's voice echoed in my head, taunting me, telling me that I could join them, that I could have power beyond my wildest dreams. But I knew that to do so would mean surrendering my humanity. With every ounce of strength left in me, I broke free of the paralyzing spell that held me captive. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding as I fled into the forest, the wails of those abominations echoing in my ears. The woods were a labyrinth of darkness, the trees closing in around me as if they were living creatures with sinister intent. Branches grasped at me like skeletal fingers, and the wind whispered chilling threats. I knew I was being pursued, and I had no choice but to keep running. Hours passed, or maybe it was days. Exhaustion gnawed at my bones, and my mind teetered on the brink of madness. But I couldn't stop. I couldn't let them catch me. At last, I stumbled upon a clearing bathed in moonlight. In its center stood an ancient, gnarled tree with roots that seemed to reach into the very bowels of the earth. Desperation overcame me, and I collapsed at its base, gasping for breath. As the first rays of dawn broke, I heard the creatures approaching. Their twisted forms emerged from the darkness, their eyes fixed on me with hunger. But the tree seemed to come alive, its roots surging out of the ground to ensnare the abominations. I watched in awe as the creatures were pulled beneath the earth, their screams fading into the distance. The tree had saved me, but at what cost? I was alone in the woods, forever scarred by the horrors of that Thanksgiving night. Now, as I sit in this lonely cabin, the wind howling outside, I can't help but wonder if the ancient spirits still lurk in the shadows, waiting for their next victim. And I can't shake the feeling that, someday, they'll come for me, too.